You've decided to listen to the Reality Czars podcast. How brave of you. Nate and Paranoid American may think that they're merely discussing cryptozoology, interdimensional realities, and crude humor. But know this, listening to this podcast puts you on a certain list, the Clinton body count, if you will. The truths they reveal are not for the faint of heart, nor the blissfully ignorant. Listen if you dare, but remember, some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. And now, your hosts, those audacious explorers of forbidden knowledge, the Reality Czars, Nate and Paranoid American.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Reality Czars podcast, and I'm your only host tonight, Nate. Thomas is asleep right now. It's 10 o'clock at night for him, and he has to work early in the morning, so Thomas gets some beauty rest. I'm joined by the great Ben Tejada-Ingram, my good friend, and he's also my co-host and our co-producer. I don't know what to call us. We do documentaries sometimes about spooky shit, about cool stuff, about cryptids. Ben is super fucking awesome. His last book was featured on one of my favorite podcasts in the world, Mysterious Universe. So everybody check that out. I should know the episode number because that would be really cool. So then I could point that out to you. But I'll put that in the show notes so everybody can look back at that. Ben is a fucking awesome author, really cool cryptozoologist, and a good friend. And he just came out with another book. So I want to talk about his new book. Ben, for everybody that doesn't know you, you've been on the show before, and you've actually helped me. You've co-hosted before on the show. But for anybody that doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me back on. Like, it's kind of crazy. When I was first on, it was like episode 30 or 40, and now you're at like two. That's insane. Congratulations, man. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Man. I mean, if you include all the bonus episodes and all the dumb stuff, we're way over 200. But officially, I think we're at like 195.
That's
so
impressive.
200 coming up.
Yeah, that's awesome, and congratulations on that. So, so my name is Ben Tejada-Ingram, and I live not too far from Nate, and I'm an author as well. And I recently came out with this brand new book. If anyone's watching, it is called "The Lands Forgotten by Time: A Cryptozoologist's Guide to Lost Worlds and Legends." And so the whole concept of this new book is, if there's any cryptids that are real and they're still out there, they probably live in very, very remote places that no one has ever been to, places that are unexplored completely. And that really, I think that's the last refuge. And a lot of people don't know, but scientists are going to these places every year and discovering new species every single year. There's still estimated hundreds of thousands of species that we have not discovered in the world. It's awesome. So that's kind of my idea with this book. I kind of want to take a look at these places that are more remote than anything and see really which ones have any cool lore behind them that are possibly hiding some really cool discoveries still. So yeah, that's what my book is about.
Heck yeah, dude. What I like to remind people that are very skeptical of cryptids, because I'm all in at this point. You know what I mean? I'm all in.
Oh yeah.
I can't say I know exactly what they are, and I can't tell you if they're flesh and blood. I can't tell you if they're interdimensional. Some cryptids, and that's something that we're going to talk to Sam Tripoli about pretty soon. So that's really exciting. But what I can tell you is that things like pandas were considered cryptids. There was a 6-foot chimpanzee that was discovered in the Congo that was considered a cryptid. People are like, no, that's not true. There's not an upright 6-foot tall chimpanzee. Platypuses were cryptids. There's all kinds of crazy animals that were considered cryptids until they weren't.
Yeah, another example, gorillas. Back barely even 100 years ago, no one thought a gorilla was real. People are like, an ape man that walks upright in Africa, that can't be real. No one even believed in them. So much more recently, I'll give you a really cool example. In Vietnam, in the 90s, they started exploring this certain part of the jungle that no one had ever been to. except for like the people who live there, like which are very few people. And they discovered, I think it was about 4 new mammals. And one of the mammals was this really weird one that kind of looks like a deer, except it has giant horn on top of it, and it's called the Saola, and but people nicknamed it the Asian unicorn. But it's actually not a deer. Its most closest relative is a cow, and it looks like a deer. It's like this insane like creature that is really bizarre, really big. And so when people like are like, how can there be any like big animals undiscovered? I look at that one and like no one for all of human history had ever seen one or known one exists until very, very recently into modern times. So there you go, people. Like there's still places like that all over the world where there could still be lots more of things like that out there, in my opinion.
Dude, I've never heard of the Saola. This is what Thomas is fantastic for. While we're talking, he'll be looking something up and he'll tell us something about it and pull up a picture. I have no idea.
It's magical.
Like. Man,
it is magical.
That's wild. I like pride myself on weird, useless knowledge that nobody else needs to know. And I've never heard of this animal. That's really cool, dude.
Well, yeah, no one has like really like. I mean, it was big news when they discovered it, and they're like extremely rare. They're very endangered. But yeah, it's kind of like this unicorn cow creation. It looks like a deer. I don't know how to describe it. They're really cool though. They're really, really cool. Like there's only like one picture. Like that's how rare they are. You can only find one picture on the entire internet in the world, I think. It's awesome. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. You know what's funny is that like the things they tell me are real, I'm skeptical of, and the things that they tell me are fake, I'm like a true believer. Like I don't think dinosaurs existed, but I'm all in for dragons. Well, I think they were dragons and they're covering it up.
Well, dude, here's the thing about dinos. Like, I don't know if you can tell.
I think some dinosaurs are not real.
I'm obsessed with dinosaurs, and like to me, they're very real. But maybe dragons are real too. Maybe that's some kind of dinosaur conspiracy theory. But a lot of people say, I'll throw this out there.
Some dinosaur bones are actually giants' bones, and they were like, these are dinosaurs. Yeah,
I agree with you there. Yeah, giants. That's another thing. I actually have a chapter about giants, but I was gonna say they actually discovered in 2020 a dinosaur that was 100% complete in one piece. You guys can look it up. It's a Ankylosaurus. And it's kind of like the dinosaur version of an armadillo. It's basically covered in like this giant exoskeleton with spikes, like this plated armor. And so it apparently like that's why it's all one piece, is because it got fossilized immediately and everything was encased in this giant exoskeleton. And if anyone wants to look that up, it's absolutely incredible.
Giant armadillo.
I mean, it looks a lot like a giant armadillo. It looks basically exactly how it looked when it was alive. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So Ben, let's talk about some specific creatures in your book.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do that, I wanted to ask you one question.
Sure.
Are you still freaked out as I am thinking about our last paranormal investigation?
Dude,
still get chills?
It's I probably have kind of blocked it out because I have to exist to like walk around my own house at night with the light, when it's dark and stuff, and I have to turn off lights and stuff. I have to pretend all that shit is like, there's a reason why I haven't touched any of those ghost apps on my phone, because for 1 second, if it started beeping in my house, I'd be like, we're selling this. We're getting the fuck out of here.
Well,
but yes, dude. I mean, that was it was absolutely whatever the fuck it was real to me, and it was freaking me the fuck out. It was freaking the kids out. It was freaking you out. Like the boys were like, whether they want to act tough now or not, they were freaked out. Like nobody wanted to go by themselves. Nobody wanted to go to the bathroom by themselves. After that, they're like, oh, you just like walk me to the door.
Yeah, dude. Like for me, like I don't know, like yeah, I kind of had to take a step back from it all and be like, holy shit, that was like really weird and intense, and I can't explain it. And maybe we should say briefly what I'm talking about. So we were at the Sandy, this like axe throwing range, really cool place out in Sandy, Oregon. And the owners had invited us to do a paranormal investigation. And so like we were doing it ghost adventure style. We're doing an overnight. We're turning off all the lights. It's gonna be awesome. And
they gave us free range of the place, so everybody left. We got there like right when it was like an hour before closing. We had a couple beers. We kind of relaxed. We kind of checked out the spot, looked around. It closed, and the owner was like, "All right, just close the door on the way out." We're like, "Okay." So they gave us the whole building, told us like, "Do whatever you want to do."
so, dude,
Which is
yeah,
super cool and really trusting because you didn't know us before that.
Yeah.
But that was cool, man.
Well, I mean, the thing that specifically like blew my mind was we had just downloaded this new like ghost communication tool, and we were just like testing it out. Like we weren't even filming yet, and like you just we opened it up for the first time, and this app is designed to sense like magnetic, temperature, like every kind of sensor data your phone has that can all like be tied to specific words. It has thousands of words in the word bank, and the very first word that comes through is Johnson, and we're like, okay, we didn't think anything of it, right? And then, well, later on in the night, we were filming the second time around. We get the word Johnson again, and that was the only name that repeated itself. Like we got a couple other names watching it back, but that was the only one that, like, right off the bat, repeating out of tens of thousands of words and names. And anyway, you want to tell them what happened when we interviewed the owner?
Yeah, sure. So like there's so much to it, and it's been a few months, so I don't want to miss anything out. So I will also include this in the show notes because this is up for free. Anybody can go and watch this little mini documentary of our little ghost adventure that we did. But man, we afterward we talked to the owner, and we didn't know beforehand. Anyway, so long story short, we asked her, is the name Johnson significant to you? And she basically starts crying. I don't know if we included that in the doc at all either.
It's at the very end. Yeah,
parts of it. And so Johnson was the last name of her uncle, and her uncle had passed, and he was very significant to her. And actually the room that had the most activity was named after him.
The room that we got the name in, like there's several like rooms.
So that particular room was named after him in the axe throwing range. That was where they had the little guns, the simulation for shooting and stuff in that room. It was named after him. And we didn't know this ahead of time at all, that she had been talking to like a psychic, a medium, and had been communicating with her uncle and had asked him to watch over her. And he said that he was going to watch over her and things like that. And so when she was having this experience in her business where there was where everyone was experiencing sort of like poltergeist activity, but nothing was like scary necessarily, but it was like significant where like whole racks of like utensils would get thrown to the ground and stuff and like get people's attention. Or they would see like apparitions where they would like go to the bar, like they'd be in the back, they'd see somebody standing waiting for a drink, and they'd go there and then there was nothing there. Or they would turn around, they would see someone like in their periphery, they turn around, no one was there. And so they were getting these like poltergeist experiences, and we wanted to warn her before like really communicating and inviting this, spirit entity, whatever it is, to be very careful, because it could be an entity like pretending to be your uncle, possibly. But I think ultimately she decided that it probably was her uncle, and it was ultimately a good experience for her. So we kind of got to the bottom of the haunting at that spot, maybe. Like I never want to say I know for a fact that we met her uncle. It could have been something
Yeah.
else. But
Well,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
really interesting, man. And
Bottom line, we experienced like 100% an intelligent communication, not once, two times. Like there's that is almost statistically like impossible. And it's one thing to like watch like these reality TV shows, Ghost Hunters or whatever. But I don't know, like when you're there and it happens to you, like it really kind of trips you out. I don't know. Like
yeah,
it's
dude.
just
And for
bizarre.
me, I've never watched a single ghost adventure. First of all, because they'd freak me out, and I need to sleep
Yes.
at night. Second of all, I'm skeptical of ghosts. Third, I've just never really been interested in them. Like I just really didn't want to. Also, they scare me. And
Yes.
so I've never watched any of those shows, but to have this experience myself in real life, it was really kind of spooky.
Yeah, like I don't know, like you do like get like a feeling like people say like your body is the ultimate ghost detection tool, and like when you're having an experience like and like you can feel it. And also something that happens to me like each time we've gone out and done this, like I don't know what it is, like after I'm done, like my brain feels a little bit scrambled because I can't like make sense of it all, and I get extremely hungry and I have to go get Taco Bell like immediately after. I
The
don't know, it's
boys, the
that's what I
boys
do.
demanded McDonald's afterward, and we all like gorged ourselves. And I'm like, I think we all had McDoubles and McChickens and stuff on the way home. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we were hungry too. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
that's what
It's a
happens.
weird thing, man.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to definitely doing more investigations. Um, dude, the whole thing is like I'm spiritually like conflicted with the whole thing because I don't know how I
yeah,
feel about necessarily ghosts, and I don't know necessarily what these entities are that we're communicating with, and it kind of freaks me out spiritually because I'm like, am I talking to a demon right now, and does God really want me talking to demons? So it's one of these things that it's kind of freaky, but Paul still has that invitation. Like for us to go check out that Pioneer graveyard, and I think we probably should. So,
well,
um,
yeah,
we
dude.
should
Like
probably
here's
go and do that.
we definitely should go do that. Yeah, the Pioneer Graveyard. And the way I look at it is, if you ever like seen the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose, like she says at the end of it, like the reason why I'm telling this story, even though it's like all dark and demonic and she's all possessed, but it's like the reason why is that if I can show that any of this stuff is real, then that will make people think about the bigger picture, the afterlife, like God, all of it. Because I mean, yeah, if you can like show that you're communicating with something out there, then that just proves those things are real, and like it's kind of a eye-opening thing for like a skeptic, let's say, who doesn't believe in it. If they can become convinced, then yeah, maybe like that will be a door to like greater spirituality or anything like that for them. So that's like the good reason. Like even if what you are interacting with, like who knows what it is? Like I don't know. Like I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah,
And
man. I mean, to be quite honest, like when we talk about this phenomenon, and that's really what it is a phenomenon, is that these spirits, like whatever it is that we're talking to, it's something that we can't see. It's something that we physically can't touch, that maybe can interfere with our reality. I mean, as far as like poltergeist activity, like knocking things over, um, it is like an intelligent energy that we are talking to, and it's kind of fucking freaky. But as far as that goes, man, like I do kind of think that whatever this phenomena is, I know that sounds stupid, but I mean it's kind of our thing. Is like I think this phenomenon is one thing,
well,
or one kind of thing. It's not
yeah,
necessarily one thing, but like, not that there's like, what I'm saying is there might be multiple of this thing, whatever this thing is, and it might very well be the same thing that you're interacting with when you are, uh, dealing with aliens
Well, yeah,
or
dude, like I love
aliens.
that idea. Like that's like the whole like John Keel like high strangeness hypothesis. And to me that makes a ton of sense. Like whatever it is that you are interacting with is going to like present itself in a way that like you can comprehend, and like that has to do with like your background, your beliefs and all that. Like the example I love to talk about is the I forget what it's called, like the one back in the early 20th century when like thousands of people saw the Virgin Mary appear in the sky in South America. And
That's
nowadays, we would definitely be like, that's a mass UFO sighting,
then there's
right?
one in Mexico. The one in Mexico was the Virgin of Guadalupe, right?
Yeah, it's
And
probably
then
that one.
yeah, and then there was one in Spain too that I always forget the name of, and I always confuse it with the Virgin of Guadalupe. But it is also similar.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. Yeah, I the more I think about it, I don't know if ghosts of human beings are a thing. Like,
that's
what
what I
seems,
that's what I tend to think. But I will grant the idea. Okay, so like I personally think that we are immortal, eternal energy beings that are trapped inside of this meat suit.
I'm in agreement. That's what I believe too. And the thing
So
is, like,
I think that we go to maybe source or
yeah,
creator or God. So we go to, I mean, I'm pointing up, but I don't know where it is. Maybe it's like maybe it's right here, but we don't know. Right. Um,
but
but whatever it is, we go to it, right? To this realm that we can't see. That's
yeah,
where we ultimately go. But what if? I mean, I've heard so many stories about people that like fight, like that don't want to go to the light and they walk the other way, or you know what I mean. I think maybe there is ways that you can become disembodied and kind of trapped, and in that way, maybe there is ghosts, and maybe I'm just
well,
a closed-minded buffoon that
dude,
like
here's a thought for you. Like, what if everything you said is absolutely true and happens? Your like your essence transcends and goes somewhere else, the source, or reincarnation, but you leave something behind. You
sorry.
leave
Go ahead.
behind all of your temporary like life, like you get reincarnated, let's say, you start over, all your like it's a blank memory, but still you. But when you transition, you might leave behind like all your thoughts, your memories, or personality. A lot of people say in like haunting situations, they're residual. It's not like an intelligence, it's more like a memory, like a replay. And what if that, like, perfectly to me, like, explains that type of situation, which
Dude,
doesn't cover everything,
exactly
though.
what I was gonna say is something like because I 100% I agree with you in this respect because I feel like we are whatever being we are is more important than what role we played here, right?
Yeah.
So we go back up to source, we get remixed, he sends us down, he I call God he comes back down here and we get a new body, a new story, a new like we're born in a different location, you know, different parents, different place, and this is our life now. But what if you are too attached to this particular like to me it's like so that maybe is what a ghost is when it's something that's holding on too much to this particular life and so you don't necessarily make a clean break
Yeah.
like
That
it's
makes,
like
yeah.
yeah I don't know that's it's interesting.
Well, think about this, too. Like, there are, like, well documented cases of, like, young kids who, like, their very first thing they ever say are they're talking about, like, I don't know, like, their past life and how they died, right? Like, I don't know, I can't tell you which case it is, but there's something about like this little kid like talking about how he was flying this airplane in a battle and he crashed and died. Like those are the first words out of his mouth. So, what if that is simultaneously causing this haunting, like let's say wherever it occurred, and this could happen like all the time, and no one
Maybe
really.
you're haunting yourself.
Well, yeah, like
Maybe
you
you're
are
haunted by your
simultaneously.
memories of
Yeah,
your own death, your own previous death.
yeah.
Holy shit.
What do you think
Think
about?
about that. Good Lord. Yeah, dude, these people that are experiencing these ghosts, they're like, and they're haunted by these horrible memories of themselves and the way, either the way they died or maybe the way they killed someone, or like with like a scary ghost of like a killer or something. Maybe that was them and they couldn't get over it. Maybe that, like, their conscience held that, and maybe that's part of an eternal punishment too, is being like, how there has to be some sort of karma and punishment. You're now tormented by what you did in the past. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
I think it's a good, interesting.
Fascinating. I love these. I
I
love these
mean,
weird conversations, man.
dude, like, so people, there are like all these cases of people who claim to like perfectly remember like their past life, even like multiple ones, and can like tell you who you were, what you did, like, and
I have
point
to
like
say that
in
I think
weird.
probably half of those people are schizos. But
Yeah,
the other half of them, I
yeah.
think, are legit. I mean, I love this. This is the part that I love, that somebody had pointed out to me years ago, and I was like, "Oh, you're absolutely right." Because personally, myself, I have memories, and I have these dreams, these repeated dreams that I have, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But um, so I mean, maybe I'm remembering some of these things, but they're always like, "Why is it that you always remember that you were a king?" Why is it that you were like, oh, I was the general in this battle? And like,
Were you
you never
a
remember
czar,
that you were the guy
perhaps?
that
No.
cleaned the toilets, you know? And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. And all these people like, I was Cleopatra.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know
I
what I mean?
call
They're like,
I call BS. Like, here's the thing. Like, when it's a full-grown adult being like, yeah, like I was a high Egyptian priest and I know everything.
maybe I
But
just do find it funny that the majority of people didn't be like, hey, I was the guy that cleaned horse shit out of the
I
stalls.
mean, when it's like very young child who like recalls like their first words, their previous death, that's weird, right? That shouldn't happen. But yeah, okay. Well, I just reminded myself there was this one like Egyptologist. Her name is Seti, and she was like, I
You
was
mentioned
a high priest in a previous life, and I knew all about, like, I worked at this one temple, and so like when they were excavating the temple, she like somehow got in there with the archaeologists and were like, this is where this is going to be, this is where that's going to be, you should dig here, dig here, dig here.
but then
And turns
she
out,
was
dude, like she
also the
was.
one though that like they brought her. She always felt like weird and like she didn't belong and shit. She had like all kinds of like weird shit going on. And when she was like I think she was either like 4 or 8, like she was a young ass kid. They brought her to a museum and there was an
Mhm.
Egyptology exhibit, and she was like, "Oh my god!" And she ran over there and she goes, "Now I remember. This is why, because I was this." And so she was like a child at this age, and all of these memories came flooding back to her. And then she was like giving them all this information. They're like, how the hell does a child know this stuff? So this is like actually like her origin was her
Yeah.
talking about this as a child.
Well, that could also like totally explain like deja vu. Like maybe it's a past life memory. I mean, maybe it's like you get reincarnated on the opposite side of the world, so that won't happen. But maybe there's like a glitch in the matrix where you get reincarnated nearby or in the same exact spot. And once you are in that environment or see like this trigger, like people say deja vu all the time, like it's happened to me. I don't think I was really experiencing it, but I'll have deja vu in like my dreams more than anything. Like sometimes I'll have a dream and I'll be like, "Oh, I remember having this place. It's familiar. I've been here a lot before." Does that ever happen to you? Do I sound crazy?
100%, dude. No, 100%. No, I've definitely had dreams that are real as fuck. Like I have lucid dreaming too. Occasionally I am in full control of my dreams. It's been a minute since I've had like a full on lucid dream, but I've definitely experienced a dream that I'm in, and then all of a sudden it's realer than reality, and it's just continuing like a story that I've
Yeah.
definitely experienced this before, and now I'm back here, and now I'm at, and this
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
my reality now, and it's crazy, dude. And so sometimes
And
I
you can like
definitely
never
take it like,
remember the deep. Yeah, it's like I can never remember it very well after. Like I know I had this strong feeling of, oh, I'm back here again. This, yeah, it's like continuing some kind of plot line.
narrative, yeah, that like
It's weird.
has been going on this whole time, yeah, and you're just jumping back in it. Yeah, that's absolutely bizarre. And yes, no, you're not crazy. Well, if you're crazy, then we're both crazy.
Well, I mean, that also kind of relates to the like multiverse hypothesis, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing in that per se. Like it does kind of make sense as an explanation, but to me, the whole multiverse thing is just too
I mean,
much.
I'm just assuming this is real right now. How the fuck do I know? I'm like right now, okay, pinch myself. I feel it. I'm drinking the beer. I can feel it go down my throat. But I mean, I don't know. In dreams, it feels pretty damn real too. I mean, I guess those are those things that you're supposed to do to like make sure that you're asleep, where
Um,
you kind of get used, like totems, right? You kind of get used to like the feel of a beer can. And so like every time you're asleep, you just kind of, or I guess when you're awake, Thomas is good at explaining this stuff because he's scholarly about this shit. But
yeah,
if you like reach for a beer can and feel the can in your hand, feel the can in your hand, grab the beer can
you're
every once in a
not
while.
dreaming.
And so when you're asleep, and this is like a memory that's like instilled in your head, you're going to be like, you're going to kind of wake up and there's going to be a beer can. Does your hand go through it? And then you're asleep,
Yeah, that's a
theoretically.
good way to like
Right?
check like lucid dream if you can
Yeah.
do that and make a habit.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you're asleep. And so then you like, okay, well, I'm taking control of my situation right now.
or you can try to astral project, which is well,
Dude, and I heard, well, this is a fun one. This is something that Juan Ayala said on his podcast, like, I don't know, probably a year ago. And he says that this is like a meditation kind of thing. This is a wild thing. I should probably have him back on and talk to him about this because I'm curious if this is something he still does. He says that imagine this is like supposedly like a real trick to help you remember your dreams, and you're going to
yeah,
remember your dream if you do this. So, okay, right before you go to bed, right before you pass out, imagine a big blue penis going through. This is what he says. This is what he
okay.
says. So imagine
No,
a big, like a genie's penis, like from Aladdin, the genie's
okay.
penis, like going through and like fucking your neck hole, like going into your spine like this, and like going into the base of your brain like this, and just I guess
Dude, I want to
like
remember my
fucking.
dreams, but not that badly. So
So then that God, fuck, I swear to God, this is something he said on his show, and I don't think that I ever tried it because I was laughing too hard. I was like, I'm not gonna do that, but maybe I should. But maybe I should also have him back on because maybe he was fucking with everybody. This
yeah,
is like a way to
yeah,
have
yeah. I
weird,
mean,
like gay Disney like sex dreams or something. I'm not sure, but he said on this particular episode that he would do this, and then he had like total recall of his dreams. He said it
interesting. I
worked.
mean, it might be like it like
Everybody, so
something
big
so
shout
like
out to
mentally
Juan and
jarring.
Iola. Big shout out to
Yeah,
the One-on-One podcast. Everybody go check them out. They're amazing. All right, sorry,
yeah. It
Ben.
might be like one of these like pattern interruption techniques where like you want to like do something completely out of the ordinary that's like mentally jarring. Maybe that stimulates your memory. Maybe not. I have no. I'm just wondering, but Have you ever thought about the Mandela effect? Like,
A
talk
lot,
about it on
dude.
the show?
A lot. Because it affects me greatly all the time. I mean, and something right now, we can talk about something that just happened. Supposedly, Bob Barker died again.
Yeah, he's already dead.
He's
Bob
died
Barker?
twice. I remember him dying once, like when I was in
Some
high school,
Bob.
and then he died again maybe like 5 years ago. And I was like, okay, well, why did they have Bob Barker die again? I was like, okay, well, he died again. And now he fucking died again. And they're telling me that Bob Barker is now dead. I'm like, this is the third time he's dead.
Some very famous Bob, like I don't know if it was Bob Barker, someone like that died. You're absolutely right. Well, I'm sure you've already heard of the Berenstein or Berenstain Bears. That one really tricked me out the first time I heard it. I
It's
am
the Berenstain
100%
Bears.
sure it's the Berenstein Bears.
Berenstain Bears.
I had those books. I read those books. My parents read them to me. Don't you think my parents would have known how to pronounce a simple like word? You
Yeah,
know?
I also watched the TV
Good.
show.
Yeah.
I also watched the cartoons, and I read the stupid books, and I still
Yeah.
own the stupid books. Yeah, absolutely. No,
Don't.
I mean,
Okay.
there's no fucking way that it was magic mirror on the wall.
So here's one
Fuck
that
you.
uh,
Fuck you, it's
is
magic mirror
very
on the wall.
bizarre.
It's mirror on the fucking wall.
Have you heard of the Black Tom Island explosion?
No, tell me
This
about
is
the Black
another
Island explosion.
example of the Mandela. It's kind of like a reverse Mandela effect because it's something very important that happened that no one knows about or can recall. But you can look it up. So it happened in like 1915 during World War One. So some German spies and saboteurs went to the Statue of Liberty in New York, and that was a weapons storage facility as well as the Statue of Liberty. Very fitting for America, but they
Doesn't surprise
what
me at all. I haven't heard that, but that's really
but
interesting. And yeah,
anyway, there's this giant weapons storehouse there, and the German saboteurs blew it up basically, and it's basically supposed to be the largest man-made explosion in history prior to the invention of the atomic bomb. So we're talking like this absolutely massive explosion, like hundreds of billions of dollars destroyed, right in New York. Like everyone should have seen this happen, and no one knows about it or recalls it, or you never learn about it. It's kind of bizarre. Do you think?
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So it's like, why doesn't anyone remember it? I don't know. Like, when I think about the Mandela effect, I wonder if it's time travel and people are just slightly messing with us or altering the timeline
You
in
know,
weird little ways.
I've heard this before, and I thought this was really fascinating. And so if anybody listening, you feel free to correct me. I've heard this though, that this is a Muslim belief, that some of the Muslim, I don't know what they are, like sheiks or I don't know, some sort of Muslim sort of priests. Okay, sorry, I'm Christian. I don't know the Muslim vernacular for things. So some sort of Muslim priests. I'll call them priests because I don't know. I don't know, Mustafis or something. I don't know. Anyways, they memorize the Quran because they say that jinns, kind of like a version of like their version of demons, right? That jinns can affect this world physically, but they can't affect your brain mentally. And so
Oh,
they completely memorize the Quran and then they say it word for word and they memorize it and they teach it word for word for everyone to remind themselves so that it doesn't become corrupt, because the jinn could physically affect the Quran, the physical book that they were looking at, but they can't affect their memories. And so they do this because they kind of believe in sort of kind of a Mandela effect that possibly can happen that the jinn can do. And so to me, that's fascinating because like I guess if I looked at like because I own like VHS tapes of old Disney like movies and stuff, maybe they could turn it into mirror mirror, but they can't affect the memory that I have in my head of watching that movie 100 times as a kid and it saying mirror mirror.
Well, you know
You know
what?
what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
that actually like totally fits with the most like modern like quantum physics research, which is kind of like it's been proven that like our physical reality has a interaction with consciousness, and our physical world will like certain molecules out there like they will behave differently when they are being observed by a human being and when they're not, and that ultimately like kind of proves that our consciousness is the most like dominant factor of reality. And it also it's kind of like so out there in the universe, if no one is looking at or observing anything, like let's say out in deep space, there's a possibility like there's absolutely nothing there until like a conscious observer is there to kind of like quantify all these like waves and energy. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
It's
dude,
fascinating.
that was something that someone had said to me a long time ago. Was something very much to the effect of like things don't exist like behind me right now to the side of me. Like let's say that this is some sort of computer generated like, but it's something bigger than that, right? Like it's silly to say computer generated, but that's like all that our brains can like. We can comprehend that because we have like the right vernacular for that. Like our brains can comprehend that because we can understand that. But whatever this like, if this is like a simulation, then it's something similar to that, right? So like the only reason why there's anything behind you right now is because I'm looking at it, and so it's generating
Exactly.
it for me right now to look at. And so if I turn around real fast, it's almost like when you have a headset for VR, especially the older ones, when you turn around real fast, you'd watch it go blah, 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 like this, and then
Yeah.
it would like generate like right there in front of you. And so like something that someone had said to me one time, which I loved and it scared me, was like, there's a reason why they tell you multiple reasons, right? Where they say don't go out in the woods alone. But it's not only because, like, hey, you might get lost and you might get attacked by a bear, but also, like, what if you're not important enough to like the actual storyline? What if you're not like, and it like the whole idea of an
Yeah.
NPC or something where
That's
you're
a
not
good way.
important enough to the storyline, where like the computer has to, or whatever this is, has to generate all of this like energy to keep up with whatever you're looking at, and it might just say like whatever and just erases you.
Yeah, no, I think that's something along those lines is probably happening. I don't
So to
know.
keep you safe, you have to like be in a vicinity with another person,
Well,
so that you are both. I don't know.
here's the thing, dude. They have proven, like I think Chaz of the Dead was talking about this, like these random number generator experiments
Yeah,
where they throw out the random numbers, and once like there's a human being in there, they can actually change randomized outputs, and it's like proven. It's like scientifically proven. So that
that
there you go. Like
consciousness can affect it. That consciousness, like if your energy, if you're focusing on like yes instead of no, or if you're focusing on one instead of two, you can start changing like the odds.
yeah,
So it would be like it would be random. It would either be one or two, or A or B, or A or B, or yes or no, or yes or no. And you focused on one of them long enough and it just keeps generating. You can make it all of a sudden 55-45, 60-40, 65-35, where you can like you can change the course of this random by your attention, your focus, and your intention. which is really fucking fascinating.
I
Especially,
mean, I
think the
wonder
more
how
people you
how
have.
far that could be taken. Like I mean, it's already proven to be real, but let's say there is someone who knew about this and who had like extreme capacity for this ability. Like, could they
Well,
just
dude,
walk into a
what
casino and be
happened?
like, "I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win
Well,
every time."
maybe, right? And I think that sometimes that's what happens. And I think that's maybe why they have so many damn cameras in places. Because, like, what if you and your friends, like a dozen of you, all came in together and you were all at the craps table, right? And you were
Yeah,
like black 12 or whatever. I've never played craps, so I don't really know. But you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like all on black 12. And all of you, a dozen of you were like black 12, black 12, black 12, black 12, black 12, black 12, and you just had this like mantra almost like doing this. And then you're all okay, $1,000, all black 12 like this. Could you affect reality enough? Like whatever this is, the simulation enough, can you hack it in that way? And that is
Absolutely.
really
Like I think
fascinating, dude.
I think it would work, but
Dude,
there is a condition. The condition is you have to fully subconsciously believe it's going to work.
yes,
Anyone in
yes.
your group
And
doubts?
here is something that I think is really fascinating, dude, because I grew up extremely Pentecostal Christian. We would go to these like tent revivals, and we would start praying for certain things, and they would get all the elders together, and they would get all the people of the church together, and we'd be praying for like one certain thing to happen. And I'm telling you that stuff would happen. And there was no doubt and there was full faith because we believed that God would absolutely do it. We'd be like, we believe in the name of Jesus that this is going to happen. And so we'd focus our intention, and it would be like 70, 100, 200 people all in one place at one time, focusing on one thing, one mission, one goal, the healing of like a person, or like a breakthrough of like this particular thing to happen. And the more people, and like, dude, I absolutely like, to me, that's Jesus. But also, could somebody use that for evil? Could somebody use that for good? I don't know what that is, right? Like,
Well, yeah, like I think if you took like 100
what is Congress
atheists
when they're voting?
and told like if you told 100 atheists pray for this outcome, like nothing would happen. They don't
Because they don't
believe.
believe it. Yeah, they don't believe it. But like to
Yeah,
me, like what is a big myth? What is a big religion? To me, the state is a religion. To me, the state is a myth. To me, the state is like a cult in their belief in it. And so what is it like? Let's say that Congress is getting together and they're all voting on a certain thing. And they're all focused on a certain thing. Like to me, that's a scary, like they are writing it into law, right? They are like casting a vote,
right.
casting. Like I don't know, dude. It's crazy. You can get into all kinds of stuff, like the whole idea of this intention and all these people working together to affect reality and to shift it. And even if nothing else, everybody else has to believe it for it to be true. Like, so Congress passed this law. Now it's a law. All of us have to use our intention. We all have to abide by it because they're the ones saying the magical spell, like this is now law. Like that is like the spell, but we all have to listen to it or it doesn't work. So it's fucking weird, dude. So we have to believe in it. We have to believe in their power for it to work.
Well, I think like if you really like want to
That's
get
the
really
anarchist.
meta with it, like yeah, like the controllers of this planet are very highly aware of this. They know that basically like your belief determines everything like about anyone's life. So if they don't have to like make
Well,
anything
even in that
true.
weird way, it's not even metaphysical. Them harnessing our energy is like them just harnessing our, like us going to work every day and making them money for their companies. You know what I mean? That they are harvesting our energy. Like you can get all woo woo about it, like like they're reptilians going like this, sucking our energy and stuff. But like they literally are. They're literally sucking our productivity, and they're like just absorbing all of it. You know what I mean? And then like we buy their tchotchkes. We're like, oh yeah, oh, I want a pocket pussy that looks like homegirl's vagina or something. So then you'd spend money on dumb shit like that. Oh, I need the new Doritos Locos taco. I need, like, oh, Flamas, dude, dumb crap that we spend. And money is just a representation of our energy as well. So we're giving them more of our energy. It's wild, dude.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, and I think like I don't know, like in order for someone to make a significant change of something to happen in the world, like you don't have to make like tell anything truthful. You just have to like say it and get people to believe it. You don't actually. It doesn't have to be real.
And
Like,
that's the spell. Yeah.
right.
And then, so even if it's like not real, it's real because everybody's listening to it. When they said, hey, everybody now has to wear a mask, guess what? All these idiots just said, okay, and they fucking put on a mask. So a
Yeah.
spell is cast. It's done. Like, if they told us to do that today, there would be enough people that would probably do it. Like, when they probably are going to do that again, according to Alex Jones. I don't know. We'll see if that happens or not. It kind of looks like that's what's happening right now. I
Yeah.
mean, enough people believe in the power of government that if they say jump, we say how high.
Yeah.
And who is government? It's just people. It's just goobers like you and I, except that they're probably a little bit more evil and like, they're sick with their power and that sort of thing. But it's just another human being, and that's a whole illusion of government. I mean, that's why Etienne de Loboetti, shout out to you. Our first strike on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. Etienne de Loboetti is like his book is called Government, the Biggest Scam in World History, because that's what it is. It's just a bunch of people that have convinced us that they have the power to tell us what to do. And
well, yeah, that's true. Like it's like everyone is born into this world with personal sovereignty. They can like make their own decisions, and all that government is a voluntary, like collective agreement to forfeit your sovereignty to another person. And I was going to tell you this.
The only
like,
thing I would argue with you is that it's voluntary because we're not given a choice, and that it was some agreement that like because I never signed. That's the whole like sign of thing
right, you're
like,
born into it. You
like,
have
I
no
didn't
choice.
sign shit.
Yeah, your birth certificate is the agreement.
That's the thing. Is that a contract? And then
Yeah.
you are now
You're
like
already a piece of paper in the system before you have any autonomy or choice of it.
Say. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, dude.
I was going to say, like, the power of your mind, a really, really, really interesting example, which is more like a mind body thing, but they did this actual study, which is kind of messed up, but very interesting. They took all these cancer patients, and so they gave them like a medication, and they're like, if you take this every day, you'll get better. And so then they took another control group of people and gave them just a placebo medication. And the placebo medication did absolutely nothing for them. And it turned out to work like almost equally as effective in each of the groups. Like the cancer, and also they did like, I'm pretty sure I might be messing this up.
So they both
They did like the reverse of that, where they gave all these people like placebo effect pill, and were like it was something cancer related, and even though these people didn't have cancer, their hair still started falling out and stuff. So it kind of like
I heard something the other day that I thought was fascinating as shit. I think this was a study that they did with was it like with like rabbits or dogs? It was some animal, right? They were doing this study with animals, and they were like feeding them absolute dog shit, dude. Like they were like doing everything they could to make them sick, right?
Yeah.
Just to see what would happen. And so all of these animals, like some of them, I think they fed like good food to, and some of them they fed bad food to, and they were feeding all like obviously the animals that were fed good food were like they were doing great, and then all the animals that were fed bad food were like fucking dying, getting like fat, and getting
Yeah.
cancer, all this horrible shit. Like they were like feeding them like, I don't know, like straight Oreos. They're feeding like rabbits Oreos. And like rabbits aren't supposed to eat Oreos. You know what I mean? That's that kind of extreme example. Except for this one group, and they were doing just fine. And they were like, what the fuck? Like, you're sure you're feeding these rabbits Oreos and they're doing okay? And they were like, yeah, they're doing great. I don't know why. And they looked into it, and it's because like the person that was administering the test to these particular rabbits was like holding them and petting them and like, I love you. You're sweet. You're such a good bunny, and was like doing these positive things to this like rabbit. Like, I could be totally screwing this up, but like pretty much what it was like that. If you like, your emotional well-being is so important, and what you think about your own reality is so important, that you can change your own reality by like how your mindset and how you feel about yourself. And so like these rabbits that were like being fed Oreos in this one particular lab were doing just fine, even though they should have been fucking dying, because this one lady was just like holding them and petting them and showing them affection.
Yeah,
saying,
dude.
you're a beautiful rabbit.
That's a mind-body effect. Like,
yeah, dude, and it really is, and just how powerful your mind is. And it turned the Oreos into like something that the rabbit could consume. And so, like, I want people to think about this, because we are going into this weird new world, right? That perhaps they are going to like, I think at some point we're not going to be given a choice. I think they are going to take away meat from us. I think they're going to take it away in a way that they are going to tell us that this is for our own good, because this is for climate change and for all this, whatever the fuck it is. We have to fucking do this to change the world. And I think they're going to take away organic food from us, and we're only going to be given GMOs. And I think they're going to make us eat weird food, and this is going to be based on our social credit. This is going to be able for us to even exist in this world, because we're all going to be stuffed in weird little like 15-minute cities. I think that a lot of us can hold out for a long time, and there's going to be some people that slip through the cracks, and I hope that we're all one of those people, and I hope that we all get together in the caves and we all have a good time. But I think at some point that the majority of humanity, unless we win, are going to be forced to eat a lot of food that the elite give us, and we're going to have no choice about it.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I think you're completely correct.
You know who's been eating this like their entire lives? Is poor people. What do you get with food stamps? They used to give us government cheese. I don't know how poor you were, Ben, growing up, but they used to give us this block of like, it's worse than Velveeta. And this block, and they just call it government cheese.
Government cheese.
And like it was called government cheese, dude. I didn't even know milk came in a liquid until I was about 10 years old. Because I was like, oh, I'd see it at the store, and I'd be like, oh, I guess they just pre-mix it for you. That's why you buy it at the store. Because I was just like, I was always used to powdered milk.
Yeah, I never had the government cheese.
I'd see my mom put powder in there.
But well, since I'm on the Reality Czars pod right now, I'll throw this out here for you. Usually I don't really talk about like political stuff. That's not my thing. But here's something to think about. Like the whole systems of control on this planet. Probably like one of the absolute biggest ones that keeps this whole system going is your stupid 401k or your IRA. Now, why I say that is, think about what 401k is. It is a mutual fund, which is managed by some big time company. And what do they invest that fund in? They invest it in probably like all the top 400 or 500 Fortune 500 companies in the world, including all the worst, most evil corporations on the planet, like Monsanto, like, I don't know, let's say
Bayer,
defense
Pfizer,
contractors, like people who make fucking missiles, Raytheon, Lockheed. Like, you can bet your mutual fund is or your 401k, and
Nabisco.
every
Yeah.
single person, once they turn like working age, gets a job and just signs up for a 401k, like without even thinking. It's like, oh, my retirement. Even though, like even though it's not guaranteed to do well, people lose money like all the time in their 401ks. But all you really are doing is giving your hard-earned money to these evil, like not all of them, but a lot of the time to
No,
these
all of them.
horrible
All of them.
corporations. Like you're just giving them your money essentially for nothing. So I
Just
think
to
it's
keep
stupid.
just to keep the
But,
system rigged, just
but
to
I
keep
have a
the sham
401k.
going. I agree with
You
you,
have
dude.
to. I
Yeah.
have one. Like I
I
contribute
have a
lots.
couple.
Dude,
I've got a Roth IRA, and then I've got several.
yeah,
I've got like a couple
you have to have
401ks
one.
going. Yeah, I've got all kinds of dumb crap going on.
Now
But
before,
I just want to finish my thought really quick, and then
yeah,
I'll let
go
you
ahead, go ahead.
this. All I was going to say is that, like, let's just say that worst case scenario happens, and we are like being fed like mealworm buttholes and cricket buttholes and stuff, and this is like the only source of protein that we're allowed to have, and genetically modified like pea protein and like soybean oil, right? And like and we're just like fed like even Soylent Green, right?
Yeah,
Keep your mindset right. Focus on what's important. Keep your mindset. For me, I focus on God. I focus on my wife. I focus on my kids. I focus on my family. I focus on keeping them healthy. I focus on like the things that are important to me. Keep your mindset right. Be those bunnies that are being force fed Oreos and still thriving somehow. Be that, you know what I'm saying? So keep that
right.
positive attitude, because if you keep that going, they cannot kill you. It's a consent thing. If you do not bend, if you do not break, if you just keep learning to kind of go with the waves, as it like go with the current, if you can, you will be okay. Focus on your family. Keep your family safe. Keep them healthy. Don't let them put any medications in your body. They're going to try and make you feel like you have to. But guess what? You don't have to. Those people are like, dude, those places are getting sued now. Those people are coming back and apologizing. Those people are getting their jobs back. Those people are getting like settlements. Those people are like, they cannot make you. Focus on what's important to you. So for me, I focus on God and my family. Those are what's important to me. My beliefs, my God, my family. That's it. So what I just want to say is, like, for people that are getting black pilled, people that are getting discouraged, they're like, hey, we're losing. Hey, this is going to happen. Hey, focus on your family. Focus on what's important to you, and stay positive. Know that we are going to win. If you do that, now I'm not saying get all cute-hearted. I'm not saying just, I'm not saying don't fight. I'm not saying like just like what did cute-hearted say? It's something
I have no idea.
well, it's like just don't worry. The plan is like,
Stay the course.
yeah, whatever. But I'm just saying, keep your positive attitude. Keep your positive attitude. Know for a fact that God has your best interest in mind, that He's taking care of you. Know that, and you're gonna
Yeah,
be okay.
that's a
That's
great
what I just
message.
want to give a positive message to anybody listening right now that is gonna get discouraged. Focus on Him, focus on God, and focus on your family, and focus on yourself, and you're gonna be all right.
That's a whole like gin theory you're talking about. It's like the powers that be out there can like screw up everything around us, but they have no power over your brain. Like, and your
Yeah,
brain
dude, I
is
love this. This same thought was in my head. Was like, somebody had said this to me a long time ago. It was like, this child like was being told to sit, and like his dad was like smacking him, and he kept standing, and finally his dad like kept smacking him enough where he sat down, but he goes, I'm still standing in my head. It's like you can't beat this. I mean, I like to say that, but I think that's what MK Ultra was all about. And I think maybe, maybe they were trying to break the mind. But anyways, any of my listeners, stay positive. That's all I'm saying. Stay positive. stay close to God, stay close to your family, stay close to your beliefs, stay true to yourself, and you're gonna be all right.
Well,
I'm
here's the
sorry.
thing, dude. Like the ideas and like your state of consciousness is like transferable to those around you. Like mind virus, if you will. It's a real thing. Like
Yeah.
in other words, collective
It's
unconscious.
dangerous. A positive attitude is dangerous when they want you scared and afraid. When they
Well,
want
think of
you controllable and they want you like to be what's the word that I'm looking for? They want you to be reactionary, like to whatever they're doing. They're gonna tell you this big new scary thing that's happening. Oh my God, did you see what happened over here? Oh, this new war over here. Oh, this new variant over here. This new like if you can stay positive, that's dangerous to them because they want you to be afraid. They want you to be reactionary.
well, think of the. Have you heard of the 100th monkey effect?
Tell me about
I wish I could explain this better, but so there are these monkeys in Japan. I don't know, and it was something to do with them using hot springs, and so like this very like large population of monkeys, like kind of like learned over time to utilize these hot springs, and before they learned this behavior, like they would see the hot springs, they wouldn't like interact or use them to their benefit. Like it never had happened. I could be getting this slightly wrong. I apologize, but something to this effect. So when a monkey that was like removed from the group did not know anything that was going on with the hot springs, like was reintroduced into that environment, suddenly it knew this new behavior instantly. Like they didn't have to teach it, or it didn't have to like observe it from anyone else. Like apparently like their behaviors transferred to this like these outsiders that had no clue of anything going on, and uh it's documented like this really happened. And the point of it is it kind of like confirms this idea of our collective consciousness, you know what I
Well,
mean?
back to monkeys, dude. Like I'm pretty sure this was in Africa. They're teaching like different chimpanzees and things to cook food. Are you familiar with this? Where they're like teaching
No.
them how to cook yams. So
That's
they're like,
cool.
yeah, it's really interesting. So they give them these yams, but they've realized that they're yummier if they cook them. And so like they're literally holding on to these yams for like a long period of time and like taking them over to this place and putting them through this like process to like cook them and then they're eating them. It's
Huh.
really interesting. And then they're seeing other monkeys now repeating that behavior because they're watching this one do it and they're like, "Oh." And so they're like actually kind of like teaching them this like this method of like and I don't remember exactly what they're doing to cook the yams because I think this has like a lot of human intervention. Like I think like I don't remember exactly the process that's happening, but it's fascinating where like these behaviors can be like picked up by the other and you can definitely see that in species like crows and ravens and things like that are hyper intelligent where they've taught them to like basically use machinery like they've taught them to use like they taught them to use to pick up coins, put it into a slot, turn the thing to get peanuts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they've repeated that. Like it's
Those are
super
smart.
yeah, crows are insanely smart. And then they can count too, and they can do it, and they can remember faces and
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah. Don't ever be mean to a crow because they will remember it, and they might even tell their like crow friends about you. So yeah,
and dude,
I
how
always
interesting
nice to crows.
that a crow can describe you. Do you understand how insane that is? That a
Really?
crow can describe you and your attributes to their friends, and they all can understand it good enough where like that guy.
Well,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? That's wild.
I think I saw some video about some lady who was like, no, it wasn't. I was some radio show I was listening to, but someone like called in and was like, it was some like second date update where like someone calls in and it's like, why didn't you call me back for a date? Turns out the reason was the girl was friends with all these crows. Like they all love her. And the guy who came over on a date was kind of like a dick to the crows and did something mean. And so that was the deal breaker. She's like, no, no. And everyone was like laughing at it. They're like, the crazy crow lady. Like, haha, like you're insane. But it's like, no, that's real. Like, I understand the crows.
Dude,
they're fucking smart and they remember this shit.
But I
That's
mean,
a
it's
deal
very
breaker.
indicative of someone's character too. The way that they treat another animal or another person that they can't benefit from, right? Like I know very much so that like myself and a friend of mine was like the first person to pick this up on, or the first person to talk to me about this was like take someone, like I'm married now, so I don't do this, but like let's say you're going on a date and you watch the way the person acts to the waiter or waitress. Like what, you know what I mean? Like the person that's supposed to be like subservitory to them and supposed to wait on them. And like, and I remember because like there was this really cute girl that was like talking to my buddy, and I was like, dude, what the hell, man? Are you gonna like go out with her? He goes, no, man. She treated the waiter like shit. She was
Oh,
such a bitch to the waiter. Like she was such a piece of shit and like kind of treated him like shit, was really short with him and kind of like mocked him and was kind of fucking lame to him. And he was like, I don't care how cute she is. She's a piece of shit. Like she's an ugly, like her character is ugly. And I was like, man, that is really a good gauge. And so now I do, like, I'm not trying to date you, but I watch the way people treat, like, like the wait staff and things, especially because like I was in food service for like 16 years. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like we supposedly, like I would know good people and bad people by the way, like I would like bring somebody their food and I'd like talk to them, because I was the chef. I would go out there and I would talk to them and I'd be like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the people that were like a complete dick to me, or the people that saw me as a human being and were like, I know some people are like awkward and autistic, like I'm not talking about that, but there's like literally people that will talk down to you and talk shit to you.
Well, I mean,
Or
like you're the chef. Like that's the better judge of character is like how do they treat the servers
how
or
do they
like the
treat the
bus
busboy
boys?
that goes and
Yeah,
picks up the dishes. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It is interesting, dude. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's
But
that's
then we're,
fascinating.
we're a little bit past an hour, man. Let's talk about your book a little bit. Let's talk
Yeah,
about some
yeah.
of these cryptids, brother.
All right, all
We've
right,
been
all
having
right.
a great conversation besides it, but
No, it's been awesome, and that's unexpected and awesome. All this stuff, man. Okay, yeah, we haven't gotten into cryptids, so man, where to begin? Because all right, I have like this book is a different cryptid in every chapter. So I guess like some of them in here are ones people have heard of. Some of them in here are ones like no one has heard of before at all.
oh,
But I
dude,
guess
let's share a couple of each, man. I want to hear some that I've never heard of, and then give me some info on stuff that I have.
all right, all right. I guess like the one to start with is the one on the cover. This is one like everyone's heard of, but it's my okay. This is my favorite cryptid of all time. This is the Mokele Mbembe. It's very, very famous one. So this thing, I said before, I'm obsessed with dinosaurs. Like, obviously, this is like a real life dinosaur said to exist in Congo in Africa, and there are just insane amount of reports, eyewitness evidence, uh, all sorts of stories. Like so many people. So I guess I should say like it's also like just a cool like you think about a vegetarian herbivore dinosaur, you think they might be kind of like chill and like docile. No. So everyone who lives in Congo or East Cameroon is another area. They are absolutely terrified of this thing because it is highly aggressive, it is highly territorial, and is very well known for attacking canoes or any kind of boats. Like they live in water, right? In a river or lake, and they have their territory. And if you fucking go into their territory, they will attack you and drive you away and could kill you. So
See, this is one of my hardest. This is one of the things that are hardest for me to believe about dinosaurs, were just how enormous they're supposed to be and how they can wrestle with gravity. But if they were aquatic animals like this, it makes a lot more sense.
All right. So yeah, the Mokele Mbembe, it's actually not like huge. It's the size of an elephant, and
Okay.
so it's described as like. All right, so it's described. So they, I guess I should say, like how we differentiate the reports
An
of an
elephant's pretty damn
elephant,
big.
because they're like they've done this experiment that's been. It was first done in the 1980s, and since then it's been done on like several documentaries, Monster Quest. They go into like these villages in the Congo, in the middle of the jungle, and they like ask people about the Mokele Mbembe, and they start like showing them little flashcards, and they're like hold up a picture of an elephant, and then like a hippopotamus, then a giraffe, and the people are like, no, that's a giraffe, that's the hippopotamus. And then they hold up a flashcard of the long-necked dinosaur, and every single time, that's the one these like villagers who have no idea what a dinosaur is, even like they're not brought up in our Western education system. They
I
always
didn't watch
point
The
that
Land
one.
Before Time and see Littlefoot.
Yeah, it's bizarre. They should not know. They don't even know that's a strange thing. Like to them, it's just another animal that exists in their natural world. And the other like thing I find to be really compelling is so back in the 1980s, there's a professor named Roy McCall who started doing a ton of expeditions. He was hell bent on finding evidence. And what he would do, he would just go around to village, like these tiny villages out far removed from civilization, and just like go to the town center and be like, anyone seen this thing? Come talk to me. Tell me your story. And he confirmed about, I think the number could be, I might be messing this up. I want to say 40 villages he went to that at least one person there had had a direct firsthand encounter and told them his story. And like that is a lot of people in even these like tiny villages. Like if you did that here in America and walked around and be like, anyone seen Bigfoot? Like I don't even know that many people who have seen Bigfoot or personally had a Bigfoot encounter.
Dude, honestly, if you went through little small towns in Oregon, like near the forests and shit, and you're like, has anybody, like, you're gonna find
Well, okay, yeah, that's true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
yeah, I'm not even discounting
That's
that
true.
because I believe them when they say they've seen Bigfoot. But I'm just saying, I think you would.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the same situation. Like everyone has seen this thing, everyone knows what it is, and they're terrified of it. And yeah, so I find it to be. There's also a really cool piece of lore out there. Like as far as like physical proof, people have found all these bizarre like three-toed footprints where these things are. And there's this one like very controversial incident that happened where there is actually a band of hunters at this specific lake, Lake Telly, and they decided to kill one because it was interfering with their fishing. And so they set up kind of like this big trap for it. They put up a bunch of spears in the water right by its river. And so it kind of like got trapped there. There's actually a bunch of really cool, a couple really good drawings of this battle that occurred. All these like guys with spears basically are trying to spear the dinosaur. Eventually, they managed to kill it, and so they decided to have like a victory celebration, and they like tried to chop it up and then transport it back through the jungle to their village. And they cooked it and they tried to eat it, and every single person who ate the meat died, got very, very sick very fast and died. And
That's
so
fascinating, man. You know what it makes me think of is like, what if you ate a Komodo dragon? You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like, I mean, you can eat an
yeah,
alligator, I guess, but like Komodo dragons, they have so much bacteria on them and like in their mouth that it's almost like they're venomous. Like they don't necessarily create their own venom, but like they are so poisonous in a way because of all the crazy bacteria. And you know what else is fascinating is like if you hold a salamander or if you hold a lizard or a snake, they tell you that you need to wash your hands before you like then touch your mouth and things like that because they have so much salmonella and things like that. Like they have these like different things on them. So it is fascinating. I
makes
guess maybe
sense.
they cook the meat, but
Does the
it's
meat of a reptile spoil faster?
I'm
Like,
not
does it?
certain, man. I don't necessarily think so, but can you imagine how hot the Congo is?
Oh
And
yeah,
it's not that they're like instantly killing something and refrigerating it since they don't have refrigerators. Particularly
yeah.
these small villages, and they probably don't have electricity, and so they are carrying it for this long distances. And what happens too is a lot of times bacteria and things like that grow, and these bacteria they create like toxins like as they are growing and things like that. So then you can then like botulism is one of those things where like this bacteria eats it and it creates this toxin, and then so you can then cook it, but you can't kill the toxin. You can kill the bacteria, so all the bacteria is dead, but the toxins are still there because that's the toxins that this bacteria created, and then it causes you to get sick or die. So that would be interesting that if it had like its own kind of like microbiome, like it's kind of like, or I mean, maybe there's
Yeah.
an actual venomous element to this animal,
No,
but
no.
it would
I think
make
your
more
thoughts about
sense.
the
Yeah,
bacteria are very like logical, and it completely makes sense. Like these people probably like mostly hunt. I don't know, like whatever, like mammals, like deer, or like maybe who knows,
deer,
even
animal,
elephants,
yeah,
like
monkeys,
mammals. They don't hunt
mammals, yeah,
giant reptiles ever, so they
giant
wouldn't
like
know.
fish
It
too.
would
Yeah, we'll go.
potentially make them sick and die. And
Yeah,
yeah, I guess the other only like thing about the Mekele Mbembe that I thought was like really interesting was they found, so there's a population of gorillas. There was only around 30,000 of them alive, and they thought they were going to be endangered very soon. And this was like in the corner of Congo. And so very recently, they got some tips from like these people who were, uh, I think, the World Wildlife Fund. They went in and they heard like, oh, there's a bunch of gorillas right here by Lake Tele, which is the exact same area all the Mokele Mbembe sightings happen. And so these scientists go in there. It's like really thick jungle. It's near impossible to get there. Like, and they discover, shockingly, they discovered an estimated 100,000 gorillas living there. 100,000, like these are not small animals, these are huge animals. And absolutely no one knew about them. Like no one even thought there was any sort of gorilla population in that area whatsoever. And so you like imagine like how does a very large, not inconspicuous animal remain hidden like in an environment like that? Um, yeah, no one knew about these gorillas, so I don't find it hard to believe at all that there's so many other things in this area that we have no idea about. It's very, very like interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
absolutely, man. So why don't you tell us now about a cryptid that we may have never heard of?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's a few in here, but probably the coolest one that I came across was so everyone's heard of the famous North American thunderbird. It's supposed to be these giant eagles that exist in mythology and some sightings and photographs, but uh, I was talking to a friend of mine who wanted to remain anonymous for the sake of the story in the book, but he grew up in Fiji, which is a small island nation in the Pacific. And so I did some research in Fiji. There's over 300 islands, and 200 of them are completely zero human beings, unpopulated. No one really ever goes to them. And so my friend, I was telling him a story about my Bigfoot encounter. And so he tells me something crazy. He's like, yeah, when I was a kid growing up in Fiji, I saw a giant bird that looked kind of like a dragon, and it swooped down to where this guy was working in a field, picked him up with his claws as easily as like a eagle picking up a cat or a mouse, carried him away. And the guy was screaming for help, and no one came. And he was so I don't know. Like, my friend told me this with kind of a straight face, and I was kind of shocked. And I was like, I didn't really know what to think about it. But he seemed kind of serious, and he told me, he's like, I've never told this to anyone in my life. I told my parents like right after, and they didn't even believe me. They were like, "You're just imagining it. That's impossible." So he's like, I haven't even told my wife about this because I've learned that people kind of like think you're crazy. So, long story short, I was like, okay, thank you for telling me. I'm the right person to tell about this because I'm going to look into it for you. So I discovered that in Fiji, they actually do have this. There's one reference in a very, very old book written almost 100 years ago about a piece of Fiji mythology of a giant man-eating bird that will swoop down and carry away full-grown human beings and eat them alive. And so I thought that was like kind of interesting and made sense, but I kind of like thought there's no other references to this thing I can find. But turns out when I kind of like broadened my search of these like terrible thunderbirds, man-eating birds, Fiji is right. I want to say it's right above New Zealand. It's very, very close to New Zealand. New Zealand is the closest country and landmass to Fiji. And in New Zealand, they have an identical legend. It's called the Pukai. It's this man-eating, terrible thunderbird that will come down and carry away full-grown human beings. And for a long time, this was told by the native population of Fiji. People thought this was just some like mythology they had until they found fossils of a giant eagle. And this eagle species they discovered was the largest eagle ever to live. It was about a full third larger than the biggest eagles we have alive today. And they only went extinct about 500, 600 years ago. This is very recently a real live animal. And just to put it into perspective, the biggest eagle in the world today is a Harpy's eagle. They weigh 22 pounds on average. And compared to the eagles of New Zealand, these things, they're called the Haast eagle. They were 33 pounds on average. That's almost like a full third bigger. Like, that's huge. It's enormous. Their wingspan was, I don't know, like at least 10 to 12 feet, I want to say. So my hypothesis and research led me to believe that these are in fact the same exact eagle from New Zealand that somehow or another had to have found its way to Fiji. Maybe people brought them over. I don't know, but regardless, the ones reported by my friend in Fiji were big enough to carry away a human being. And the more I looked into it, the more it kind of makes sense that they have all these uninhabited islands there. No one knows what's there. So if these eagles could like survive off of eating fish, there's a thing in science called island giganticism, which states that any kind of species living on an island is going to grow a lot bigger than it would if it lived on the mainland because it doesn't face any competition or the same competition, and it has access to almost unlimited food source, no predators. So it does kind of make sense to me that these eagles, these thunderbirds in Fiji, could potentially be enormous in size. Like I'm talking like 20 feet wingspan. They would look terrifying. They could easily carry away a human being. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, there's been like maybe one other report in modern times, but no one can like tell you they aren't there. No one goes there. No one really explores these kind of like uncharted islands out there. So it all kind of made sense to me, and that's one of the things I write about in my book.
Yeah, man, that's absolutely fascinating. I'd heard these stories too. I think this is actually like considered documented fact that they found quite a few ancient human skeletons, human skulls, where they would find these like scars like right here on the eyelids and stuff of these skulls. They're like, what the hell is this? And they've basically have come to the conclusion that these were giant birds that would come and grab you by the head, and their talons were what was making these marks right here. They grab you by the top of your head like this and drag you
Shit.
away. I think it's pretty widely accepted, that idea. And so it's fascinating to me when they tell you things like they're assuming that these eagles were about 33 pounds.
Yeah.
They found one specimen. How the fuck do they know that this was a young one?
Yeah.
Right? They also will tell you like it was alive maybe about 500 years ago. Well, they also would tell you that like there's these like little stick bugs that they said were completely extinct and had been extinct for 100 years, and they just found a little island alcove that had all these damn little bugs on them. They're like, holy shit! Oh,
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
they're still here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so just because the expert consensus will tell you that this was a certain size and that they are now gone doesn't mean shit.
No,
Because
you're right. Like,
every single day we are making discoveries with new species, and we are making discoveries with new, or discovering. Well, they say things that I think it's some ungodly number of species that are going extinct every single day, and I don't know if that's true or if that's fear mongering, which probably a little bit of both. Um, but also, we're discovering brand new species, and we're getting our mind blown every day.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's like you're saying, 500 years is absolutely like nothing. Like that's like a blink of an eye. It's like, yeah, people, this has happened before, by the way. Like people, the science community will officially declare certain like animals to be extinct, and they'll just like it's like some official thing that they have like a status of a species that's like, nope, they're extinct. And then it turns out a couple of years will go
Is this
by,
what you're
and
talking about? The Pisa bird? PSA bird? Somebody just gave us
man,
a comment. I don't know what that is. I should
saw
probably look
bird.
that up.
Yeah, no, the one in Fiji, if you want to look it up, it's called the Ngani Vatu. The one in New Zealand speaks.
Oh, really cool. The PSA bird is a creature from Native American mythology depicted in one of two murals by the Native Americans. It's a really,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
man. Tell me that's not a dragon. That is crazy. Thank you for throwing that comment out there. Yeah, that thing is really cool looking.
Yeah, dude, I'm convinced like North America had like their own version of this too. Yeah, it's like kind of a
When I post
worldwide.
this picture, you know what? I'll make that part of the picture. I'll make that part of the album or cover art so people can see it, and
Yeah,
maybe I'll
dude.
include it in the Instagram post because that thing is really cool looking.
Yeah.
Um, Man, that's incredible. Yeah, that looks like a dragon, man, and that like the way your friend described it, it was like a giant bird slash dragon that grabbed
Yeah.
your friend.
Yeah. It's you can't like I don't know. I don't know if you've ever seen like an eagle up close, but like yeah, they're very like kind of like intimidating when you see them up close. You know what I mean? You ever seen like a bald eagle or something swoop in and catch a fish? Maybe like
Yeah,
they're big. They're big as hell. Like you don't really like
they're
realize until.
surprisingly big. Yeah, when you get real close to them, they are surprisingly big. Uh, so hey Ben, we're rounding up like a little bit past an hour and a half. You want to throw us one more interesting or cryptid that we haven't heard of?
Yeah, all right. I'll throw you like real quick. I can't really get into it, but everyone check out my book if you want to know the whole
Yeah.
story. So I went down this kind of like rabbit hole of giants. Everyone knows about the giants in North America.
Oh, dude, this is my favorite topic. Let's talk
The
a little
fucking
giants.
okay. The mounds in North America, the whole like Smithsonian conspiracy. Everyone knows about that, but what no one at all is talking about, which is a very well documented thing, are the giants in South America, specifically Patagonia, which is at the very bottom of South America. And so Patagonia actually means it's the land of giants or the land of big feet, is the literal translation. The reason why it's called Patagonia is because in the 1500s, for about a couple hundred years, right, 1500, 1600, every single European explorer who came there all reported giants living in this part of the world in Patagonia. And they called them the Patagon giants, they were called, which is what they named the whole like area after, Patagonia. And so the very first sighting was the very first guy who circumnavigated the globe in a ship. He went all the way around the world in a ship. It was Magellan, was his name, and one of the few survivors of this expedition wrote a book about it. And he said when they got to Patagonia, they like saw all these giants on the shore, and they kind of like befriended some of them. And then like the like European conquistador jerks they're like, we're gonna kidnap a couple of these guys and take them back to Spain, kind of like parade them around the courts of Spain because we want to get rich. And so they ended up luring back a couple of these giants who were, by the way, reported to be 10 to 12 feet tall. And they took them on the boat, and eventually these two giants died for unknown reasons. Like a lot of people died on this voyage. It was dangerous. But anyway, that happened. And for the next, 200 years or so, there are a lot of famous explorers. Sir Francis Drake was one of them who reported seeing giants, the remains of giants, or basically heard about the giants. And so, I kind of like connected this whole idea of giants to this lost city that's supposed to exist there called the Lost City of the Caesars, which is a kind of like El Dorado type thing, but it existed in Patagonia, and it's very well documented in a bunch of historical documents. But the thing that really like I was trying to like make sense of it all, and like what can I like say that will kind of cement this idea of being actual reality. And I learned a couple interesting things. If you go back into the human being fossil record, we have giants. We already have them. They're called Denisovans. And just in 2020, they discovered, maybe it was like 2 years ago, they discovered the Dragon Man of China. They kind of like rediscovered the skull, and it's basically human anatomy, but it is about a third bigger. It's absolutely huge. Like there's a picture of it compared to a human being, and people. The thing is, the scientists, the anthropologists out there, aren't going to call it a giant because they're like, well, all we know is it's just like a very large skull. It could be just this giant head type thing and a small body, so it's not a giant. they have no problem, by the way, saying there's like little hobbits out there or like pygmies or something like that. But the other one they found, the Denisovans, is kind of bizarre because they've only found basically small bone fragments. I want to say like a finger and a couple teeth. That's it. That's the only evidence we have of this human relative that is well known called the
That's why I'm
Denisovans.
skeptical of a lot of things that scientists say. But anyways, yeah,
Well,
they
the
base
thing,
a lot
dude,
off of like a couple teeth and a
the
finger.
fucking thing about it is they extracted the DNA off these teeth. They're like match it up to our DNA. It's like it's basically the same. It's almost a human being, not quite, but they've actually discovered certain populations in like Europe and Russia have like 5% Denisovan DNA. Like they interbreeded with us. Same with Neanderthals, but the thing about the Denisovans is though a couple like molars and teeth they found were double the size of a human being. Like think about that for a second here. Like double the size, and these were like juveniles. And still, it's really crazy to me. They won't call them giants. They won't even say they were like. They say, okay, they could be abnormally large, but we don't know because we have not found the full skeleton yet. But to me, that's ridiculous. Like all these human ancestors are all kind of like the same anatomically speaking. Like none of them are vastly like proportioned differently. Like it's all the same. So if you have a creature with giant teeth or a giant skull, you can bet the full grown thing is going to be like a giant sized creature, right? So yeah,
I would
that's
say so. I mean, I'd like to think that the majority of those skeletons that were found, the big giants' bones that were quote unquote destroyed and or occulted by the Smithsonian are still intact somewhere. I bet like if you go to like the
agree.
Rothschilds like mansion or something, they have the big skeleton all put together, and like put it on display just for them while they drink baby's blood. I don't know what they do. But yeah, man, that is some fascinating stuff, dude. So we're a little bit past an hour and a half. My wife is gonna kill me. I gotta work in the morning. Tell our audience one more time what's the name of your book. Tell us the best place to find it, all of that good stuff, brother.
All right, you guys. My name is Ben Tejada-Ingram, and I go my new book. I'm holding it up to the camera. The Lands Forgotten by Time. Or you can just search my name on Amazon. Either one will pop up there. It's the title of the book, by the way, is a play off Edgar Rice Burroughs had a famous book called The Land That Time Forgot. So I just kind of like rearranged that, and mine is The Lands Forgotten by Time. So if you want to like type that into Amazon and search, and you'll find it. Or you can try my name, but no one can pronounce my name. But look me up probably on Instagram. My handle is Anomaly Hunter X. That's probably easier to remember. So yeah, I'm probably the most like active on my Instagram.
I will have links. Yeah, I'll have links for everybody to find your Instagram and for everyone to find your new book and your last book. That I again want to remind everybody. You guys, I'll also have that included in the show notes. Man, I think is the coolest thing in the world. You were featured on Mysterious Universe. That's so cool, dude. So your last book, that was super awesome.
I fucking can't believe it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, wow. Thank
Legit,
you,
dude.
Universe.
I love those guys. That's an awesome show. Anybody that hasn't listened to that show, I don't know what you're doing with your life. If you're listening to this show and you haven't heard of Mysterious Universe, go and check them out. They are the best, dude. A couple
they did a
dudes,
fantastic job. Yeah,
yeah, dude, they are just the best.
I've been addicted to that ever since I discovered them through them doing me. I had never heard of them. Now I listen to them like every day.
Asking for your YouTube channel. So why don't you tell them about Anomaly Hunters?
Yeah, so it's like
that's both of our shows together, sort of.
Yeah, if anyone here hasn't watched me and Nate's YouTube channel, that's our joint like YouTube project. It's called Anomaly Hunters with an S at the end, like a plural. So just like go on YouTube and search Anomaly Hunters. You'll find our channel. And yeah, dude, we have some pretty awesome, well, I think they're pretty awesome, but we do ghost hunting. We did a Bigfoot documentary, which was pretty awesome, crazy too, I think. But yeah, that's our YouTube channel. Go check it out, everyone. Yeah, we're gonna make more content. We promise. Gotta go to that graveyard coming up.
Yep, we're gonna go to a pioneer graveyard here pretty soon with another member of our team, Paul, who has been on one of our excursions with us. So,
did you say there's like access to a like church area too?
I don't know. We'll have to chat with him about it. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. We gotta plan another one pretty soon. I am free. I have nothing going on right now, so now that I'm done with my book kind of consumed all my time and energy, but now it's finally done, so we can do other things.
Well, that's awesome, brother. I appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun. Everybody listening, we love you guys. Thank you so much. All right. Cheers, everybody.
See you later,
So
guys.
you've decided to listen to the Reality Czars podcast. How brave of you. Nate and Paranoid American may think that they're merely discussing cryptozoology, interdimensional realities, and crude humor. But know this, listening to this podcast puts you on a certain list, the Clinton body count, if you will. The truths they reveal are not for the faint of heart, nor the blissfully ignorant. Listen if you dare, but remember, some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. And now, your hosts, those audacious explorers of forbidden knowledge, the Reality Czars, Nate and Paranoid American.